So I've started the recording. You'll start the webinar. I'll start screen share. So then that'll go away. Just making sure. Okay, here we go. So many people. I don't have to name all these people, do I?
I don't think so. I think the minimum time we spend on that, the better.
Yeah, me too. And say tech, very tech. We can look at this. We've got Tech Nation, West Midlands Growth Company, and DIT. Blah blah blah. Here we are. And then oh, guess what? Here's some major sponsors that we have here. Blah blah blah. Then all these people want to make sure, and most of them are universities. But outside of that, I'm sure they spent lots of money. And here's it's us, Rockfine Group. Cool. Guess what? Here's what you're here for. That. So I'm over to you, Director Mahul.
So I'll put you on spotlight mode from now.
Say it again, big guy.
You're on spotlight video now. So it's just
Spotlight video. Cool. On my screen, I'm still the four of us.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll see me or they'll see whoever's talking?
They'll see you.
Okay, but then
But then when everyone else is talking, I'll make them the spotlight.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point in time when we start playing around with it, Mike, you and I will start trying to figure out the little video drop that puts me or Mike or you or whoever, Tonia, in front of the slide. Is that what we're going to try to practice?
So do you want to practice that?
No, not right now. Not now. There's no. What did we tell you, Tonia? What's the rules? There's no changes on game day.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. No changes on game day. It's game day.
No changes. No changes.
That's when it all changes and goes horribly wrong. Oh, I didn't realize that you're going to do that. No.
So what are the bets? So 550 plus people signed up. Are we going to break 100? That's, it's like, what do you think the number is going to be? Mike?
178.
178. Tonia, 550 people signed up. What do you think the number is going to be?
I think 150 is coming.
Okay, 150, 178. Mahul, what do you think?
It's around 150 as well.
No. Got to be something
different. It can't
different.
be 150 as well. That's you don't win a bet like that. That's either side of 150.
I don't want to go low, so let's go high. 180.
Okay, I'm doing 201. I'm doing 201. And the reason for that is we had 38% open rate on the MailChimp the other day. So if you take those maths that people actually clicked on something, that's a pretty good hit rate.
So the person with the worst score buys the beer.
Yeah, I'll meet you in the pub at 5.
Mine will be a virtual one, so it'd be cheaper.
Yeah, it's no kidding. You buy your own, and then I'll maybe send you some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Tonia's got the lowest number at the moment, and Bart's got the highest number. So, and Mahul being so close to mine, it's going to be
tight. It's going to be tight. But the bad thing is they've given us their email addresses, so we're going to talk. We're going to talk to them about it anyways. So man.
Mm-hmm.
That works.
Yeah. The tech week, they kind of messed up because they only sent one email, and that's about 10 minutes ago to all the attendees. They were supposed to send one 24 hours ago, one 1 hour ago, and one 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's why I figured that we should, hitting them with hours. You don't
Mhm.
rely on them to do it.
Mhm.
Organizers, you don't allow organizers or rely on organizers to do.
They've got 60 sessions, so I suppose out of those 500 plus, there's many of them will have just clicked yes to everything.
Well, the sad thing is they put everything on at 10:15. I set the 10:15 time because I wanted it to be different than everybody else's 10 o'clock and 10:30. And then Tech Week said, hey, that's a great idea. And they put everybody on at 10:15.
And we have 8 sessions at 10:15 today.
So it's like, what? Oh, man.
I think
Ours
I'll
is
start
cool.
the
Ours is
webinar
the
now.
coolest, though. So it's okay. They don't
I
know if they're
suppose
missing.
there's 7 other sessions going on at the same time now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was stupid.
I'm gonna
Crazy.
start the webinar now. So
Okay, cool.
people are just gonna start coming in, the attendees pool.
Piling in. All 201 of them are just going to fly in.
That works.
Let's see.
Dun, dun, dun. 0. Still
It's
zero.
background music.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun,
Do you
dun,
want
dun,
some radio music?
dun,
Do you want some
dun, dun,
radio?
dun. Throw on some gangster rap.
I've got the radio if you want.
Throw on. Here's.
Can you hear it? Can you hear that? Okay. Okay.
Got a little bit of Eminem going berserk. It's all good. It's all
Okay.
good.
It's okay.
We'll have a good recording of it. It'll be fun.
Will we be able to see the people coming in, actually?
Mahul does.
Yes.
We don't get to.
Okay.
Oh, really? It's because in my participants, I can have panelists and then have attendees.
Okay.
How are all 3 of those attendees doing? I guess that is one of the benefits of doing it this way versus live. Is last year we had 35 people signed up and 22 showed up, and that's in live. It's meh. Where at least on this we'll have it recorded and have some fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad that I've got the background because it actually looks quite cool and uniformed.
Looks like we're all in the same studio.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, the future enhancements is getting a massive panoramic picture and then just chunking it.
Yeah. So it looks like we're actually each in the part of the thing.
Yeah. Bam, bam, bam. Or bam, bam, bam. Oh dear.
Now, clearly we will finish on time, so that means we're starting on time.
Yes. So we finish at 11:15, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
You tell me when to go, Mr. Director.
I think is Mahal supposed is saying something to you or no?
Oh,
It's
not yet. He's just
No,
he's
it's
just on mute.
Yeah.
Give it till 10:17 and go for it then, BD.
Hey everybody, welcome out to Birmingham Tech Week. Our sponsors this week for Birmingham Tech Week, Tech Nation, West Midlands Growth Company, and DIT. And then our 2020 sponsors locally, NatWest Copper Culture, BJSS, Side Trade, and BMET. And here's some other people that are making sure that they're partnering with Birmingham Tech Week. And we're from Rockfine, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So here's what you're all here for today. Why 90% of pitches fail and how we can make it happen in 5 minutes. So there's not a lot of actual science around pitching and people in the background. So getting statistics together is very difficult. So what we did is we went out and looked at Shark Tank, which is the US version of Dragon's Den. And if you look at how many companies went through that, we got to that 10% number. So less than 1% of all companies that apply to go on to Shark Tank are ever funded. So we took the numbers and broke them down. So that's 40,000 apps per season, so applications per season, of which 158 pitched over a number of episodes. And even worse than that, and the reason why it's in orange is because even though 158 of those got finance or said, hey, guess what, you can have some money, 73% of those deals changed, which typically means we'll offer you this much for this much of a percentage in your company. But when they actually got to the numbers, which we'll talk about, everything changed almost 3/4 of the time. So that's why when we talk about 10% or 90% of pitches failing, not every one of them gets what they want. And how do we have local insights in this? The first one is, I'm BD Dalton, founder of the BullRing, and I'll talk a little bit more about myself in a second. But we've seen hundreds of pitches that have come through the BullRing. We've worked with 30 millionaire bulls to get their feedback. We own companies in fintech, insurtech, fintech, and other items. And we've done our own personal pitches. And we also work with a lot of angel investment groups. I'm BD Dalton. I call myself Next Level. So when you go search for me on LinkedIn and you want to hear a little bit more or ask me questions afterwards, it's Next Level BD Dalton. I've got 25 years of experience in investments and helping people either sell or buy businesses. I'm an entrepreneur and an investor. I do training, presenting. I'm an author of 3 books, and I'm the founder of the BullRing. And we'll talk a little bit more about the BullRing because I've got a great cast of characters with me today. So I'm BD Dalton, we just talked about. I've got Mike Pagan, and I've got the amazing Tonia, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about what it means to actually pitch. So let's take us back to 2017. 2017, what you're looking at here is DuPont, Washington. My hometown, or south of my hometown by about 15 minutes. So 2017, they just put in brand new rapid speed or high speed, HS2 for us, tracks going down past DuPont. And around this bend, which was a 50-mile-an-hour bend, the conductor was going 78 miles an hour on a train and derailed it. So he had a very simple task: drive forward or backward at a speed. The speed was on a narrow track, and he should have been told and should have known to go 50 miles an hour. But most pitches have been trained, they've been honed. You've talked to people, you've talked about your product, all these different things. And sometimes you can get it very, very wrong because you don't only have a forward and backward, you have left, right, forward, up, down, and you're talking about money. So the 2 things or the 3 things in people's lives that people like to talk about or don't like to talk about: religion, money, and health. So you're talking about a lot of those things all at once. So most pitches get it wrong because they change the pace. They don't do the things that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to hand over to Mike Pagan, and Mike Pagan's going to talk to you a little bit about the BullRing and why it's a little bit different and why 5 minutes can make, break, or change your life. Over to you, Mike.
When you're talking to an entrepreneur or an inventor or somebody who has got their business in a situation where they need some extra support, everything that Bart's already talked about, focusing in on the Dragon's Den and Shark Tank and so on. They're talking about money exchanging hands purely. That's their pure invest process they're looking at. But actually, when it comes to investment in a business, so often it's not just about cash. It's about the collaboration. It's about the inside knowledge. It's about the non-exec. It's about finding the right employees and the other people. And so therefore, with the BullRing, the way we work that is put together in a format where you're not just talking about cash. But the other challenge we have is people can talk for a very long time about the things they're excited and passionate about. It could be 5 minutes. No, it could be 5 days, because you're talking about all the clever technology and the wizardry and everything you've done. So consolidating that into 5 minutes. Yeah, so it's not a 1 minute elevator pitch that you do a networking environment or something like that. It's 5 minutes, which gives you enough time to engage and connect, but not so much time that you can go into the cash flow forecast for 2023. But it therefore gives the scope to reduce, take out the noise, take out the fluff, take out the extra stuff that doesn't add value, and just work on that primary objective. That's interesting. Let's have a conversation. That's the whole part of it. When you're doing this investing and pitching environment, that's what you want to get to. That's interesting. Let's have a conversation. You don't need 15 minutes. You don't need 5 hours to do it. To generate that hook, that connection, 5 minutes. And that's what we do in the bull run. It's a little bit challenging, yes, but that's the point of pitching in an environment where it makes a massive impact. 5 minutes, get too interested.
Perfect. Mike, 5 minutes. So guess what? Mike Tyson, you can see him in the background here. Everybody has a plan, just like we talked about with the train, just like we talked about with everything else that happens in pitching. You always have a plan. But what Mike Tyson said, it's always great to have a plan until you get punched in the face. So he can have a plan going in there, but when you get punched in the face is when you hit this screen, when you hit the groups of people. So I'm going to introduce you to one of our amazing presenters, somebody who's been through the BullRing, has done the pitching. She's an actress, but I want her, Tonia, to talk to you a little bit about her run-ins in pitching. So Tonia, over to you. Tell us a little bit about you and about this. And Tonia loves to talk, so if I jump in, I'm not being rude. I just want to make sure that she's getting to that salient point. Over to you, Tonia.
Hi guys, yes, my name's Tonia, as Bart said. So basically, I just want to say that even though I am a fully trained professional actor, when it came to pitching, it was a specific skill that you had to learn, and I have got to be honest, I became very flustered, just like the last slide. I did have a plan, but that plan went to pot when all the technology just literally blew up in my face. And I was like, what's going on? Help me, please. And basically the training really helped me for on the actual day. The day of the pitch, I had it going on. I felt like a superwoman. And I just want to give you a little bit of advice out there. The biggest key for me was practice my pitch. PP. That's all I want to say to everybody. Practice pitch, practice pitch, practice pitch. That's literally what I did. So even though I'm trained, when it came to pitching, like Mike said, there's an art, because you have you have to make sure you get all of the specific elements into your 5 minutes. And because I'm so passionate about my project, as you can see, Lucid the Dreamwalker, that is the comic book version of the TV series that I was trying to pitch. I was so passionate. I wanted to give everybody all the flavor, but what I needed to do is make sure I scaled it down, made sure I kept to the 5 minutes, and I managed to do it. I managed to do it.
Tonia, so one word before you walked in the pitching and one word when you walked out. What was your one word before you walked in?
My one word before I walked in was art.
And then what was your word when you walked out?
It was
Not
flying.
With brilliant relief. Cool. Thank you,
Flying.
Tonia. Thank you so much. And you'll be around, and we're going to have a couple of Q&As and things like that going on throughout this. But I wanted to make sure that we brought somebody on that's obviously energetic, and for somebody to be that amazing and that forward and presentable to go, that is not cool. So that's the one thing. So you have the plan.
Just to add to that story, just to jump in and add to that story, Tonia has now moved from interest to conversations. So the pitching that she did on the BullRing has now moved up to several levels, and there's global TV and film people having conversations. So this pitching process goes from interest to intrigue, and then suddenly it goes up levels. And Tonia is an absolute classic example of where that program and everything is developing.
Perfect. Okay, so we had that. So we have to go into the next part. So you're here to learn a little bit more about making your pitch better. So the first, we go through P's, we go through different parts of this. So for me, and for what we work with you on, or what we work with a lot of our pitchers on, and what we work on ourselves, is what's the problem? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? Is it actually a problem? So when you're asking yourself questions, or especially when you're going to pitch to investors, if you say that, oh, it's really hard for me to turn on my mobile phone swiping right or left, well, they might go, so is that really a problem, or is that just because you don't know how to use your mobile phone? So you really need to make sure that when you're presenting this as a problem, that you've done the research, you've done the stuff in the background, which we'll talk about later in attraction, but when you've done the research in the background to say, this is actually a problem. But then the second thing is, like when Tonia was talking, or like when Mike talks or trains people, or when we're pitching, does the audience, are they able to understand what that problem is? So you have to be able to explain the problem. And this is the next step. And we put this in orange here. Is this pain or is this pleasure? So are you trying to make somebody feel better with your thing? So you've got lucid dreamwalkers going to make people feel amazed and engaged, and they're going to understand BLM. They're going to understand superheroes are not just white, and they're not just big white males. They're going to be, anybody can be a superhero, right? So that's pleasure. I'm feeling better about myself. Or if it's pain, is it an app like Uber where I'm just standing there and I just want to get home? So it's a pain. It's a pain in the butt to just wait there and wave down a taxi, or to hope that TOA shows up. And I'm not trying to put marketing out there for anybody, but you just need to figure out, is that pain or pleasure? Can you get the bulls in our case, or your investors, to understand, or the audience overall to understand, is this a proper pain or a proper pleasure? Anything you want to add in there, Mike, that I missed out on? I just want to make sure that people are writing this down and getting this.
One little phrase that in the world of pitches that fail is, I don't get it. It's just the investors are sitting there, the pitch is going on, and at the end they're saying, I still don't get it. Is there really a need? Is it what are they fixing? What are they helping? How am I meant to get better? And that's part of the question of, do you get it? Do you understand it? Is it clear enough? Because the failure rate of I just don't get it is just means that the passion and excitement and enthusiasm for what you're talking about hasn't translated. And that's where the preparation and the external support is so important, to make sure that it is so Ronseal, it is so obvious that sort of, I get it. Yeah, I might not like it, I might not be excited by it, but I've got to understand it. I've got to get it.
And so the problem is, and this is not the solution, you are the solution, or your product is the solution, but does the audience understand? It doesn't mean that they have to buy it. Doesn't mean that they have to be able to purchase it. So if somebody is trying to sell me a new version of eco-friendly Jimmy Choo shoes for women, I'm not buying it. I might understand it, but I'm not your target audience. So you just have to make sure that I understand that there is a problem, and that that you're trying to solve it with your item. So really that problem is it a problem? Can I get the audience to understand? And at the end of it, am I going to feel good about it, or is it going to make me eased into the next part of the process. Here's the one that starts driving me nuts. And we go into this whole thing because everybody talks about potential. So how big is the market? So when we start talking about how big is the market, this is, Mike, what are the numbers that we hear usually when we're talking about how big is the market?
It's only a small percentage. I'm going for 0.6% market share because it's a gazillion dollar marketplace globally. So we'll still be millionaires by Christmas.
That's right. So there's no, it's out there. And then the other one is, hey, Mike, how many competitors do you have?
None.
Yeah, that's right. We don't have competitors. We are so specialized because our left-handed iPhone app is only for lefties, and there's only lefties, and it's like, what the heck? So if you go into a pitch and you tell the investors, if you tell the audience that there is no competitor, you have just lost us. Our bulls switch off instantly. So they have to understand that because, and I talk about this, we put it up here, wallet. You are not going for a market. You are going for wallet share. Wallet share is what you have to explain. So every one of us, whether it's Tonia after she's sold Lucid to the BBC and they're distributing it, her wallet share might be every month she has an extra $3,000 to spend on frivolous stuff, bully and extra cars and all this stuff, and helping her family and take them to Disneyland when we can go. But the wallet share is really what we're going for. So the potential is all out there, but you're competing for wallet share. Once people have paid for their rent, their insurances, their food, all this other stuff, they've got this much money left over. You're competing for that with Fox, with Sky, with Amazon, with going on holidays to Disneyland, all this stuff. So now it's going dwindle, 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 dwindle down to this amount of money. So unless you can replace all those people and you're more top of mind and they need you more than that, you have competitors. It might not be in left-handed widgets for your iPhone, but it is definitely there. So
and the other part of wallet share to add in there as well, that you're referring there primarily to consumer purchasing. Obviously, in the business to business world, in the other environments, but there's still a wallet to attract. You're still looking for people to spend their money, whether it be through the large budgets and the multinational organizations or the cost saving creation that your business is all about. We need to understand where the finance is going to come from and who's going to benefit from it, because sometimes it's about money going out, but the other side of it, it's about savings that are coming in, and that's still wallet share.
So, and when you bring both of these back together, we need to know what your client does. We need to know that avatar, whatever you want to call it in marketing speak. This is who is the Tonia in my thing? So how much money does Tonia have to do this thing that I want to do? So if Tonia, it loves her music, so she does this stuff, can I get $5 a month out of her for a Spotify style membership? Or do I want her to buy a CD because she loves it, or whatever medium we're downloading things in now. So can I get 15 quid out of her a month, or can I get 5 quid out of her a month? Does she buy monthly, or does she buy an annual subscription? So you need to understand your client. The deeper you can go on all of this plan and fact finding and be able to just say, here is Tonia. Tonia is our avatar, our key market, and here's what Tonia spends, and here's how we get to Tonia. This is what we have to do. So market, don't say that you're going for a global market, and everybody wants to know that and everybody hopes for it, but guess who you're competing against? Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. You're competing with them, and guess what? If they like what you do, they can already do it and spend it. They just haven't done it because, you know what, they could, and to Tonia's thing, they could create an amazing black superhero that goes out there, but Tonia's got a better one, but they have more money, so they can market it faster. So just make sure you know where you're going. So that's potential. Traction. Oh, this is one that everybody runs into. You know what? I've talked to my friends and family, and they think that this thing is going to be amazing. So when it comes to traction for us, it's sales. If you don't have sales, Maybe it's downloads of your freemium or your freeware. If you don't have that, it's surveys. So your traction really has to be proving where you've gone, how you've moved forward from idea to this thing. So if you're doing a minimum viable product or an MVP, and you don't actually have something you could sell to Mike or to Tonya, then you have to be able to go out there and say, Mike and Tonya, could you fill out my survey? If you were spending this much money on this, how much would you spend? How many times would you buy it a year? So your surveys really come into it. But the reason on the right why I put this letters of intent in here is if you can't get sales or downloads and you have a minimum viable product and you've done some surveys, letters of intent or purchase orders are like gold dust. So this is where somebody out there has said, yes, if you get this done, we will buy or produce or do whatever for 100,000 of those. So you have something in the future that if I can get this investment, I can get this thing done. So traction is this huge, huge beast that you need to create, because you need to figure out if I can do this in this amount of time, with this amount of money, I could do this much in that amount of time, which produces this much profit. Mike or Tonya, a comment from you guys? Anything on traction that you should think of?
The other side of that equation, of course, is it's not just about seed finance. So quite often you're going to find the businesses are already established. And so you've already got the sales track record, but we need the finance or the collaborative partners so we can go from A to Z because we're already moving along that. So we have got evidence, and it's that evidence that proves what's going on, so that you can justify the pricing, the valuation that you're giving the business. I mean, you've all seen that on TV often enough, with random seed ideas, and it's worth several million already. Really, we can't justify it at all. But the evidence, so when the business is already established and we're just looking for the next level up, because if we had another 250, another 2.5 million, whatever the numbers are, this is what the business could do. This is where we could attack the market more effectively. And as a result of that, our returns are going to come through in there. So you've always got that traction element, this general evidence piece of this is what's going on, this is how it works, and this is why it's a good investment, because it's so clear. The market is already loving and enjoying what we're doing. So therefore it becomes a no-brainer. And that's part of what we're trying to do, is you want to, by providing the evidence, you want an investor to be thinking, this is a no-brainer. Why is nobody else jumping in? Now, they might get a bit cynical, thinking there must be a flaw in the plan, in which case that's part of us providing the evidence that demonstrates that you are a good bet, a good investment, a good gamble. It's all of the above, I suppose.
So Tonya,
I just wanted to quickly say that traction was a major part for us, and I'm so glad that we were able to retain that information without even understanding how powerful that was. Downloads and sales of our comic book, the downloads of the music linked to the comic book, all of that was so important for us, because we could show clearly, we could direct people to the social medias, all the handles, and I think social media should be featured as well within this kind of world of traction, because when people see the following and all of that, and they can see that there's an audience to build on even more, that was really powerful for our project.
Yeah, that's huge, and I'm. You know what? We will put that next time. There will be social media, because it's not only about what you can sell to this person or this avatar or this Tonya or this Mike right now. It's what can we sell them later. It's if we get $5 out of her now, how do we then sell her concert tickets? How do we then sell her, tickets or updates or upgrades on Sky? How do we sell advertising on the back of it? So everybody's
exactly, because you're building a relationship with your clients, with your customers. It's that relationship, and you take it further to more than just a customer. It's more of an experience. And
I call it in all my books, I call it client lifetime value. It's how much can I get So if Tonia only buys £5 today, or Mike only buys £5 today, I know that next year they'll buy £10. Next year they'll buy £50, and the next year they're going to make their big purchase because they've gotten wealthy enough. So if you can track that and show that this person or this avatar does this, they download, then they buy, and then they do this, and oh yeah, guess what? They follow all of our social media on Insta, they follow all of our Twitter, they go on our LinkedIn. You're building an audience, you're building eyeballs and engagement. So anything else on traction before I move on, guys? Because those are some great comments.
I just want to add in for you guys watching, there is a Q&A here. So if you have questions, we will be pausing towards the end to give your time for whatever questions you've got, challenges you've got to throw those in there. So please stick those in the chat box. We've had a couple others already coming in, and let us know, because we'll try and address those towards the end and give you all some airtime, because clearly in your environment, in your business situation at the moment, some of the stuff we're talking about at the moment is totally relevant to you, and other bits is not for you personally. So let's make it relevant for you, so you're getting some really good takeaway stuff as a result of watching this.
So cool. Mahul's running everything in the background. We're just the faces on camera. But so Mahul, are there any questions that we should be addressing? I saw a couple drop down, and I'll leave it to you, but before I move on, I'll leave it. Ready? Okay. Moving on. Okay. The numbers crush everybody. If you've ever watched The Dragon's Den, if you've ever watched Shark Tank, if you watched a pitching session, if you've seen a BullRing, then you need to make sure that you know your numbers. Always know your numbers. Figure out what's happening, where it's going. And even more than that, we had one in the BullRing last week where the person actually said, I have £1 million turnover. And then they said, well, I've got £600,000 in income. And then they said, I've got £750,000 in projected earnings in the next within this 12-month period. So within the space of a 5-minute pitch, they're asking the bulls for £750,000, and they can't get in a 5-minute pitch whether they make £1 million, 600,000, or 750. You need to know your numbers and make sure they match up. I'll leave the last point because it's the one I want to leave you with. But so when we talk about knowing your numbers, what were numbers that you felt that people should know, Mike, when we're talking along here?
Well, clearly it's where are the numbers going and what's happening. So we're talking about net profit. Yeah, we're not talking about turnover, because turnover, that horrible cliche, turnovers for show, profit is what matters. But where are the profits coming from? What are you actually generating? I did see on one of those shows recently, somebody had a ridiculous debt attached to their business. And as soon as they actually mentioned that, all right, so well, if you've got debt in the business, that's not a problem, because most businesses do have an element of that. But where's it coming from? Where's it building up from? When you're looking at the other parts of the profit, we need to know, what have you actually invested in the business? Yes. So what have you committed to it? Because if you're asking people to put their time, money, and effort, and their future grandchildren's inheritance, or whatever it happens to be, at risk here, they need to know that you are fully committed. So around those profit numbers, it's really seeing what's there, and without the good old hockey stick. Somebody had to mention it, but somebody had to
I was going to the hockey stick. That's what the whole thing's about. So don't steal my thunder, Pagan. So Tonia, what was a number that you didn't know you needed to know when you did your presentation?
Well, the thing that I learned was, if you don't know your numbers, do not talk about numbers. Basically, if you don't know them, do not bring the numbers into the room, into the game, into the pitch. If you do not know it, please just don't do it. Michael's very clear on that. And for my pitch, I was looking for an investor in terms of a co-production, another production company. So I was very clear on not bringing numbers into the room until I had my numbers ready. And I think that's important to say. Do not mess with the numbers if you haven't sorted it. Go and sort them out before you bring them into the room.
So our millionaire bulls are millionaires for a reason. Millionaires don't just walk down the street and throw things around. A lot of them have been driving the same car for the last 5 to 10 years. A lot of them have invested in the same thing. A lot of them wear the same clothes for the last 10 years because they bought really good stuff and they just wear it. You know, it's just things like that. Is they're focused. I wouldn't say, well, some of them are the F word, which is frugal. Some of them are that, and they get that way. And you want a partner like that in your business. And this is where profits really matter. They've typically run a business, run a bank account, run investments, and they want to know, okay, what it is. In 5 minutes, you don't get the opportunity to tell all that stuff. You want to get people hooked. Tonia hooked them. They loved her energy. They loved the idea. They love this. Then they want, this is literally your Tinder. This is swipe left, swipe right. This is, you know, what's everything happening here? How's it all going? It's not about, hey, let me show you all the numbers. This is let's have a chat, and I'll tell you that I like going to Barbados in the wintertime, and I like doing this. And guess what? I went to school here. That's the actual first date. This is just swipe left, swipe right. That's what happens in this, because it's going to get deeper, dirtier, and darker later when they're actually going to cut you a check. So the big thing here, and Mike mentioned this, exaggeration kills. And exaggeration kills. So if you do the hockey stick, so most people say, well, we're going to tick along like this for the next 3 years, and then bam, that thing's going to happen, and we're going to skyrocket, and profits are going to quadruple. And oh my gosh, that's the thing that people just go, meh, turned off, switched off, done. They're out. They're like, this person is so far out of their own head, they don't even know how to do it. So exaggeration kills. Energy, amazing. Exaggeration, death. Before we move on, Mike, what do you think?
The hockey stick is just the classic faux pas, and you see it in the slide deck with all these wonderful graphs, and they just got their little swoosh every time. That's not how businesses grow. That's not what happens. Yeah, there's going to be spikes when you're being successful, but there's also going to be times where things aren't coming right. They're not coming through accordingly. And it just goes up and down and up and down. And you need to make sure that you're aware of that and what's coming across, be that an established pitch or a seed business pitch. You've got to show how that's going to grow, because otherwise it just doesn't come across as real or thought out. It just comes out about sort of finger in the air and just I'm hopeful and happy rather than grounded and sound.
And most of the time, the things we've been through now, this is before we get to the next two parts, these are the things. They're buying your energy, they're buying the things that are happening, they're buying the idea, and that you have a plan. Mike Tyson's going to punch it in the face in a second, but you have a plan. Mahul's come into the picture. Mahul, is there a question that we should be answering?
Yes, PD, we have a question in the chat. So the question is, how soon in the sales process should you aim to get financial commitment? And are there other ways you would recommend where we can get commitment in the sales process that are non-financial?
That is great. That's a great question. So perfect question to come in, Mahul. So what are the other things that we talk about when we're going through and looking for money? So my friend, Professor John Mullins at the London School of Business, says that most people shouldn't get finance. So we already know that 90% of pitches fail. So if you're one of those 90%, how are you going to get money into the business? So pre-selling, and John Mullins, if you haven't read it, it's Customer Funded Business is the name of his book. But go out and get pre-sales. Go out and get traction. Go out and build that stuff, because the most expensive equity, the most expensive money you're going to have is right now. Is right at your MVP stage, at your initial traction, because you have nothing to prove. It's the biggest risk for the money, so they're going to want the most, and it leads us into the next part. So you need to get traction, you need to get sales, and when you're talking about, and the reason why the BullRing is an entrepreneur showcase and not an investor summit is because sometimes you need partners. Sometimes you need another studio like Tonia did. Sometimes you need another VR producer or developer to help you and your VR thing take things forward while you're both still making money in the background. So it's always about making sure that you have pre-sales, making sure that you have pre-engagement to move it forward. So if you're talking about the stage will depend, and this is a horrible answer, but I'm a financial advisor by nature, is it depends on where you're at in your process. So it is real, early money is very expensive. but you need to figure out how to get people on board, whether it's partners, non-exec directors, other directors, other suppliers that want to take it forward with you before you go out and ask for money, because that's part of your traction. One more second for you, Mike.
Just to add in on that, the whole part of a collaborative partner or a non-exec director or employees, if you get, let's look at the non-exec director briefly. If you get the right non-exec joining your organization, they could be worth, as an employee, 6 figures a year and some. But you're getting them for a notional amount per month, but they're still bringing that cathedral of knowledge along with them for the connections, for the introductions, for the support network and everything else. So actually, as far as being part of your team, that one individual could be worth hundreds of thousands to your organization, but they're not bringing cash. It's just because of their IQ, their intelligence, and as I say, their cathedral of knowledge that really will help the difference. That's why we do this as a showcase, not as a summit.
Cool. So here it is, one of the most famous investors in the movies, obviously. And Gordon Gekko, if you've ever watched Wall Street and you want to go out and get investment, watch this. This is the evil, dark side of investing. So the most valuable commodity in the world I know of is information. So the more information you can give to an investor, a bull, a dragon, a VC, private equity, venture capital, any of that stuff it's there. They want to know that. They want to know the ins and outs. And this is the best one when you think that if you haven't read Sun Tzu's The Art of War, everything is there. Every battle is won before it's fought. So these guys they gamble, but they gamble on the entrepreneur. They don't gamble on the business. The business has to be sound and focused, or they have to be able to figure out how they can tweak it to make sure that they can get their money back, because they are an investor. They are investors. Investors are invested in you. They're investing their money, their future wealth, everything else in you and your business and your idea, but they want to know that you're there. So if this is your side hustle and you're asking for money, you will not get any money. If this is your side hustle, that takes you down below 10%, takes you down below 10 of 10%. This takes you down to nearly 0%. If it's your side hustle and you're asking for somebody, if you're not working in your business, Gordon's not giving you anything. And that brings us to the exit. So when you get and you start to go and you start to say, what's going to happen here? I say investors are not just for Christmas. Once you stick them in the business, they're in the business. They don't go away. It's not just like, give me your cash and you sit there and then you go out and spend it on ads and you go out and spend it on new machines and some more plastic for your widgets, whatever it is, they're there. And guess what? There is no jam today. There's no money coming back out. Once they started in this, most of your dividends and your profits and your income will be reinvested into the company, right? So you're not getting extra pay. So if you ask them when they're giving you money and they say, so what's this money for? And you say, well, it's for salaries. They're going to go, it's not, it's got to be for marketing. It's got to be for increased sales. It could be for salaries, but it better not be mostly for your salary, because they want to know that you're committed, but they also want to know that your skin in the game is making it go forward. If you've been working on this business for a year or 2 years or whatever else, and you've been able to have free reign and you've been able to go, get ready to become an employee. So you're going to be working for your business for them to get their money back. So you need to be able to plan the exit. And that 3 to 5 year exit is what most of our bulls, most of our investors are looking for. Not always, and every one of these is usually 3 to 5 years. So you need to know in the next 3 to 5 years, what is going to happen? Are you going to sell to Amazon? Are you going to list it as an IPO? Are you just going to sell up and you can sell your patents and your trademarks and all that type of stuff? Are you just going to pack it all in and go somewhere else? So know your exit. And most money wants to know, and when I say money, so your investors, especially private equity, and venture capitalists usually go a little bit longer because they've been there, done that with their own money. but they're going to want to know, how are we getting out of here in the next 3 to 5 years? Anything that you want to add to that exit part, Mike? It's
just adding in the one thing about professional investors, and having been on both sides of the table in this environment, they expect, if they invest in 10 organizations over a period of time, they expect 5 of them to fail. 2 of them might plod along, a couple of them might go okay, but 1 of them will fly. So they're working on a basis of 10% of their investments. So one organization will reap the rewards and the massive benefits of all the others they've invested in. So the clarity of that ROI, the return on investment, and the exit is so important, because that needs to be clear for the professional investor.
Tonia, if you'll chime in here for a second, what in your pitch or your idea, what is one of your exits that you've talked about?
Well, just to pick up on investors are not for just for Christmas, I just wanted to say that is the reason why you need to make sure you and your company is ready for that investment. That's another thing, because you might think, oh yes, I want all this money, and then you're not actually ready to actually work in the way that the investors might need you to within that time scale. So it might sound really great that you're going to get all this money, but that's the reason why the statement, investors are not just for Christmas, is also for your safety as well, for you. Not to just jump into bed because, wow, this investor is interested in giving you money. Well, actually, are you robust enough? Do you feel like you're ready to do what the investor wants you to do as well? Because they do have timelines of when they want things to be done. You know, there's a relationship that starts there. So you have to be ready. So hence, for me, like I said, we were looking for a production company, so that was a little bit different. But we did also have a cash money investor interested, and we didn't go forward straight away because we need to make sure that our 5-year cash flow was as we wanted it. So now we've got it how we wanted. We will go back to that investor, but we actually had to pause that conversation. He was very interested, but we had to, because we knew investors were not just for Christmas.
That's correct. And then, so Mike, and you're writing a new book that's also about your wealth and that type of stuff. And so one of your things is your wealth team, right? So
absolutely.
So if you're a business, you need a wealth team in your individual person, but all businesses are run by individuals, correct? So what would you add to that when it comes to a discussion around investors are not just for Christmas? Who else would you bring into the discussion?
Well, I mean, from the professional sector in a wealth team, you need obviously the accountant, the solicitor, and the wealth manager. Those 3 elements alone, and I realize there's multiple strands that fire off those titles, because clearly an accountant is you pay all the tax you should, not a penny more, not a penny less, because that's how it works. The solicitors, from contracting through to the actual deal, everything else, those independent legal advice, their cost, but the upfront cost now is so much cheaper than down the line if you don't get it right. And then the other part of it is the wealth. What are you actually trying to create? What is the numbers? What does it really look like? Because you can all have a key ring with RR on it, but that could be a Robin Reliant or a Rolls Royce. And we all know which you might or might not prefer, but either way, that shows us a spectrum on the wealth planning and how that comes together. So that's all part of what you're trying to do, but you're demonstrating that through to the investors as well, so they get excited about what's happening. Perfect.
Okay, the next one. So we've got Mr. Wonderful on here from the Shark Tank, because I'm a Shark Tank enthusiast, but I want 50% equity in your company, and I want 50% equity in your soul. So this is when you're saying, okay, so guess what? And now we're asking, and they come on, and you get really good at this if you watch enough of these things. They come on there, and I want for 3% of my business, I would like 750,000. You're going, so you're worth 21 million. What? How many have you sold? How many have you done? Make sure two things, especially early. You're going to start to learn lots of words, but I would go out there, and if you've done nothing else, Mergers and Acquisitions for Dummies is a good book, because you're going to figure out what cap table means. You're going to figure out what leverage is. You're going to figure out all these things because you've been really focused on your creative, your software, your whatever. And you're going to go out there and say, okay, well, I'll offer, everybody says 10% for X. And it's so difficult because you're giving 10% away, especially at early stages. That 10% in the future, and we'll go back to what one of our friends or one of the people that we know with FanDuel. And FanDuel, if you haven't done the research on FanDuel, go out and do it. But when they started, it was one of the biggest betting sites. All these things, they sold out. And by the time they sold out, there was a 428 million pound sale, kind of huge, massive things. And the owners walked away with less than £1 million each. 428 million sale of their business. They sold successfully, came out with that much because they gave away this much at the beginning. And then that much, guess what? When you then get more money, it grows again. So you make sure when you're offering, you need to be able to, like the slides previously, what are the investors going to get out of it? When do they get their money back? And is this enough? Because remember, this is usually your first stage. So guess what? You're going to have to do this again, and you're going to have to give away more money next time. So you need to make sure that you're doing this right. So the ask is so important. And the reason it's here is because you've swiped left, you've swiped right, you've told them all, here's where we're going, here's my energy, here's the dream, here's the vision, and here's how you can participate in this amazing thing. So the ask is so important, but it's also this is the do you want to marry me? This is that thing, because guess what? You're gonna get this is polygamy for money, because you're gonna have a lot of marriages if you're gonna be successful. So this is your first shot is, do you want to marry me for 10% of my company? So it's like, it's not 50-50 like in normal marriages, or actually probably more to the other side, but we'll leave that for the lawyers in the room. But overall, the ask is, what is that percentage and how are you going to engage with us? And that's the big thing. So Mike, over to you for a little bit of commentary.
Just the quick one there on the ask to add in on there. If it's money you're after, then sow the seed that I'm asking for money. So right at the beginning of a pitch, I'm going to be talking to you about what we're looking for. Our investment we're after is a financial investment. At the beginning of the pitch, what we're asking for is we're looking for collaborative partners. We're looking for a specific non-exec. We're looking for employees. We're looking for new premises. These are the things you talk about, because then as the pitch goes on, you can then be more specific. But right at the beginning, it needs to be signposted so that the investors in the room know what you're actually talking about. Then when you turn around and you say, this is what I'm after, it makes perfect sense. It doesn't make sense if it's just thrown in at sort of 4 minutes and 57 seconds into a pitch in our world of the 5 minutes and say, oh, and by the way, 100K. That doesn't kind of work. You've got to build it so that people understand how it works.
Crescendo. So let's work on that. So the ask is very important. So Mike, over to you. If all else fails and you have not watched this and you're only watching this on this slide, what can somebody bring to a presentation?
Okay, there's so many elements on this. We've been talking about the detail going in there. Let's be fair and be blunt. This is a performance, whether you're doing it through the virtual world of presenting to a lens the size of your fingernail, or you're in front of 150 people in a medium-sized auditorium. You need to have in your mind that this is a performance. So you've got to prepare it. You've got to put it together. The first thing there, knowing your audience. If you are presenting to a room has certain bulls in it, or investors that you know, you need to, and this is legal stalking, but you need to stalk these people, understand their investment criteria, understand what they go for and what they work for. Because the more specific you are about how it comes across, the more likely you are to turn people on and off. So if you're looking at a pitching environment and you know some of the bulls are not relevant for you because you're in the gaming sector, you're in the health sector, you're in whichever sector it happens to be, then great, be specific, because then you're tailoring it to that one person or that one industry specialist. So know the audience. The energy. Hopefully you've noticed throughout this presentation today that both Bart and myself are standing and presenting, and there's plenty of arm movement and energy and engagement and everything else. That's because we practice what we're preaching. We want to put that across in a way so you get excited, you get engaged. You're not spending the whole time just on Facebook or whatever social media whilst watching this online. We know, I don't worry, my attention span is pretty slim. So I know how this works. So you have to, in that pitching environment, in 5 minutes, grab them and get them working with it. And the final one there, it says practice. Practice, practice, practice. Tonia mentioned it earlier that the amount of time she practiced, and this is a trained artist, a trained actor. You are probably not a trained actor or artist. You may or may be the brilliant engineer, the brilliant technician, innovator of your business, but that doesn't mean to say that you've got all the energy and the way of coming across where it's going to come across seamlessly and effortlessly. So I'm sitting there at the end of it thinking, that was really interesting, Bob, Mike, Claire, whoever. I want to have a conversation, because that's what we're after. And there's skills and there's techniques. There's so many elements to work on in there, so that when it comes to giving that engaging pitch, you're remembered for the right reasons, because of the content, because of the performance, and because of the fact that it's an awesome business that people want to get involved with.
And I want to go to Tonia. So Tonia, on number 3, would you just do it for, so we have a soundbite. What was it again? It was pitch.
Practice your pitch. Practice your pitch. Practice your pitch.
Awesome. Thank you. So Q&A, we'll go really quick here. So Mehul, are there questions that we need to chime into? Several
in there, Mehul. I'm excited. What we got?
So the first question we have is actually, what's the best way to go for a startup app that is designed but still in the idea phase? So they got survey results that are present, but prototypes would be significantly costly. So what should a founder do in this scenario?
There are quite a few things. I'm part of Birmingham Enterprise Community, and we do a lot of stuff like that. It's not a lot of testing. There are quite a few different styles of software that will mock up or skin up an app for you. And you could do that. So people just want to see what it might look like. So there's a lot of software out there, and we can, if you email us after this, I can give you a couple of different websites that we use whenever we're developing things. But the cheaper you can make it, the quicker you can make it, because everything, when it meets, and this is what Mike Tyson says, you're going to have a plan of how you think that this app's going to go. And then the people, your customers, whoever's going to punch you in the face, and they're going to say, it's not how we want it used. That's not what we believe in you, but that's not how we're going to use it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, we all thought that the phone was a phone. No, the phone's a camera and a texting tool. It's not. I call very few people these days. It's another tool. So you got to use, there's quite a few different software packages out there that you can skin up an app to test out.
Next question, Mahal.
So the next question is from someone who has already pitched, and the feedback that they got was the investors wanted them to gather letters of intent, and they're currently in the process of it. So they want to ask, how do I translate the pitch deck for investors into something appropriate for potential clients?
When you're going for your seed round, your first amount of money, you need a translator. You need a broker. You need somebody else out there that's going to speak investorese for you. So those letters of intent are going to be able to take you there. So Tonia's got some people through the West Midlands Creative Scale-Up program that she's used that helped her take this amazing energy and this amazing package and this amazing thing and ask the right questions and package it up in the right way. So you need to have your team of advisors to be able to, and it doesn't have to be expensive advisors, it just has to be able to tell this story in a numbers way that the investors are going to do. So you need to engage somebody to help you translate those letters of intent into traction and forward progress.
Sounds good. Let's go again.
So the last question here is, elevator pitches tend to have a unified format, and it seems to be something that is continually prescribed by everyone. It usually includes a hook, a detail, and ask. Do you think this is a good idea? And should the pitcher have license to play with the format of the pitch?
Yes and yes. Absolutely, there is license. The frameworks, I mean, are there. They need to be interpreted and then personalized. Because if you, I'm sure many of you have been to those networking organizations where somebody has this overly polished ending that they always use when they're communicating. So if it's overly polished and sounds slick, salesy, snake oily, then people don't get that. They want to, especially in Britain, people want to communicate with a human being. They want.
Was that a slant at the Yanks? That was not very nice. I heard
didn't
that,
say
Mike.
anything about the Yanks. I said the Brits like a bit of raw.
Oh, okay, I
Like
see.
it real.
Because just because I say if you want to work for the rest of your life, that's your business. If you don't, that's mine. That is not polished at all.
But it's done in an authentic way, which is different. Yeah.
Yeah, that still means it's still BS, is what you just said.
Mike, I would agree with you as well. And something that the feedback that I got from yourself, Mike, which when I did my pitch, one of the things that you really did love, and you helped me to kind of like keep that element, was the fact that I made my ending and the beginning, it was very personal. So the ending, I made it quite personal to me and my kind of struggle or my movement in terms of being a Black actor or Black person wanting to see representation and representation mattering. And you loved that. And also, so I kept to the format, but I made it my own. I drew people in with a story. I opened up with storytelling. I ended with some storytelling. And I felt that I had to play to my strengths and be authentic to myself. It was very important. Otherwise, I'm just robotic, and no people can see through that. They want to see the raw, authentic you, because like you've both said throughout this whole webinar, that people are interested in you. They are taking a risk on you. They are investing in you, the entrepreneur. So you have to be your authentic self. Just anyway.
That's really good. No, so rules are made to be broken. That's my main thing. So Mike, we got to move on to the questions. Yes.
Yeah, there are more questions. We are going to set up an after party for people to plug into if you wish to. So we'll give you that link in the chat room in a moment, so you can go across to that. But Bart, let's wrap up the session.
So the problem is it a problem? How do people understand does your audience understand it? The potential. How big of a share of the wallet can you get of Tonia or Mike's wallet? The traction. Now that you know how much you can get, have you gotten any of it? Once you've gotten it, how can you figure out what the numbers are going to look like? Then guess what? If I'm going to give you money, how do I get out of the business with you? And then how much am I going to give you in the ask? So we're going to have all of these sounds out there. We're going to have this on a video out there for you to see for Birmingham Tech Week, and also through the BullRing website. If I can say it properly, I've been talking for too long, but here we are. So guess what? For attending today, Pitch Perfect Practice. So Tonia's been through this. So we have a special discount for anybody that's attended this and everybody that signed up for it. So all 500 people can get the attendee here. So Pitch Perfect Practice is available for you, and you need to pitch, practice. And then guess what? If you want to hear any more wafflings on, we put on the books at 3 for the price of 2, and you can find those at Bart Dalton Consulting. Mahul will put in the slides or in everything else, but we just wanted to say from the BullRing, the Rockfine group, from Tonia, the amazing Tonia, Birmingham Tech Week. This is why 90% of pitches fail. I'm Next Level BD Dalton, and I've loved hosting the webinar with you. Mahul's going to put that in, that we're going to put in the login for going over to a Zoom meeting. So if anybody wants to go over to the Zoom meeting now, if you're still here, Mahul's put it in the chat, or have you put it in the chat? And then you could go over and we'll have some time for individual questions. Thank you very much, Tonia, for your time. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The link to join the Zoom call after this is on the chat, everyone. as well as the links to all the resources that BD has mentioned.
So make sure you go there to the Zoom meeting. I'll be there in about 2 minutes and you can ask questions. Thank you very much. Enjoy Birmingham Tech Week. So I'll go out of here. I'll stop recording and I'll